Hi there, I'm Dr. Mike Braitsch. I'm a physical therapist here in Dallas, Texas at Tribe Wellness. And here at Tribe Wellness, we specialize in one thing and one thing only, helping people with Parkinson disease or other forms of Parkinsonism to move better and hopefully in so doing, feel better. And I'm excited today because through the Parkinson Foundation, I've got access to show you a little bit of what we do in a class that we love here at the Tribe called Balance, Core, and More. And I think you're going to be in for a good time. Here's what you're going to need to get going today. Hopefully, you've got something like a cup that you can use as a target to tap your feet on or to step over. And hopefully it's something that's not fragile, and hopefully it's something you don't mind touching the floor, because it's going to get dirty. Also, if you need support, since I'm not with you, and I obviously can't modify things based on what I could see from you, hopefully you get something sturdy like a railing or a sturdy piece of furniture to hang on to. Hopefully there's nothing you could trip over on the floor. And hopefully you're ready to work hard, but modify as needed if you end up in a situation where you're flaring up some aches and pains. Speaking of, I want to get started with you today, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a side view here as we begin our warm-up. We know that one of the hallmark features of Parkinson's disease is dystonia. Another is rigidity. And we know that makes it really hard for some of our gang here at the Tribe to get moving. We know it's really tough to just stretch away stiffness in the body, but a good warm-up can get the blood flow going, it can get the heart rate elevated, and it can help kind of wash away some of that stiffness through the body. So why not start out hanging on to something if you need it and doing some high knee marching in place. And what I hope you'll do too, maybe if you're seated for our workout today, is hopefully you'll sit at the edge of your chair and focus on keeping that upright spine, focus on engaging that core, because the work that we're doing could easily be done from a chair or from a supported standing position like this, or if your balance feels great, out on your own. And if you're not hanging on to something while we continue to warm up, why not make a little cognitive challenge here or a little bit of coordination challenge by adding some opposite arm reaches. So we've got one knee going up, the other arm's going up. And come back, up and down, up and down. We're focused on upright, tall spine, good posture, and we're focused on a big reach with the arms. And with the knees, hopefully you're seeing that I'm not picking it up and letting the knee flop down. I want you to control that descent as much as possible. There's a group just down the street from my office called the Parkinson Voice Project, and they're known for a key statement they use called "Speak with intent." And you and I know when you add an intentional focus to any movements that you do, it helps you to override some of those symptoms and regain control. So even on things like lowering the leg, rather than letting those feet fly fast, make them big and controlled, and bring your focus to slow, controlled motion. We're going to get going fast enough, don't you worry. We also know from a wealth of research too that exercise is medicine for people with Parkinson's disease. We know that intensity also helps. While we keep warming up here, how about pointing the knee down towards the floor and kicking back? If you're seated, you can kick your legs out from the chair in front of you and control the lowering. What I was saying though is while exercise is medicine and intensity matters, I'm hopeful that during our session today, you're not going to overdo it, because I've seen it happen where folks get caught up in the excitement. They work themselves into maybe an off period where their medication's not as available in their bloodstream. Symptoms kind of flare up. It's a preventable situation. And I like for folks to think periodically throughout a workout, check in with themselves. We could even do that right now. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, if there's a 0 to 10 intensity spectrum, and 0 is like you just woke up from a nap, 10 is like your maximum race pace that you can't maintain. You're running from the cops like you stole something, or you're running after somebody who might have robbed you. You can't maintain that pace. Somewhere between that 0 and 10 is where you are, and I'm hopeful today you'll get somewhere about a 4 out of 10 and no higher than maybe an 8 out of 10. So if you feel at any point during our workout today like you're getting after it a little too hard, you can just slow things down, or you can take off some speed, or you can give yourself permission to take a rest, because we know consistency is the biggest key when it comes to exercise. Well, there are two keys, aren't there? One is consistency, and the other is safety. So there's no single workout that's going to put you in a position. I'm doing a little kicking motion here, up and in, to try to loosen up the hips. There's no single workout that's going to put you in a position where it's worth taking on unnecessary risk or ending up with extra aches and pains, anything beyond muscle soreness. So hopefully you're hearing me with that. So we're getting these hips loosened up. We've been getting the legs loosened up. And this is a class where we use a lot of drills that are common in group exercise programs, but here at Tribe Wellness, we like to do things that are based in evidence too. So we like to do things that are commonly done in physical therapy for people with Parkinson disease, or that match how we address impairments associated with Parkinson disease. Let's do some shoulder rolls while we keep going. We bring the shoulders up and back and down. And what I want you to emphasize with this motion, it's simple, but it's not always easy. I want you to emphasize that part where you squeeze those shoulder blades back in towards your spine. So you bring the shoulders up, back, and down. Hopefully you feel it opening up your chest, because we know that posture that everybody's fighting from living life, which is also worsened because of Parkinson disease, that rounded shoulders, forward head, flexed trunk. We call it the posture like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, if you're familiar with that. We know that involves a lot of tightness in the chest. So if you can really open up that chest, fire those muscles between your shoulder blades, you're doing yourself a lot of favors there. Next up in our warm-up, let's start turning side to side. You can keep your head up, you can keep your back up. Heck, if there's nothing you'd whack your arms on, you can just let the arms flop a little bit. And this ought to feel pretty nice on your low back. I know a lot of folks that I see in our group programs have a variety of aches and pains just from living life. And what we try to do here that's a little bit different is we try to work around those aches and pains to help people keep moving, because we know there's no drug out there that slows the progression of Parkinson disease anywhere near like what exercise can do. And we know that exercise, when coupled with your medication, can make a huge difference in your quality of life and function. And for some folks, even just helps you sleep better. So there's always plenty of value to be found with working out. You know that, or you wouldn't be plugged into the Parkinson Foundation's Fitness Fridays. Next up, if you don't have any shoulder pain, I want you to reach overhead as we do some side bending. If your shoulders hurt though, you can just slide the arms down the side of your pants. We're going to do a whole bunch of them one way, gentle side bending and rising up tall. Gentle side bending and rising up tall. We'll do a whole bunch one way, then we'll do a whole bunch the other way. I've been having a little bit of a debate too when I think about this class in person or even on Zoom. I can usually see who I'm working with. And so I can usually ask them, hey, are you comfortable getting onto the floor? How does that feel or work for you? Let's change sides with these side bends. But having a little bit of a debate about whether or not we should get down on the floor, because I'm of the mindset of if you can do it safely, then it's a good practice to get into because it takes a lot of coordination. It takes a lot of spinal mobility. It takes a lot of hip mobility. It takes a lot of core stability to be able to get up and down from the floor. And if one of the great concerns people have with Parkinson's disease is falling, well, quite frankly, it really helps if you fall to be able to get up. You know, there's an old martial arts saying, fall 99 times, get up 100. And while I hope nobody's falling that often, it's helpful to be able to get up. So we might deal with that later. But let's continue here, getting ourselves nice and limbered up. First, we're gonna tip forward a bit, flexing the hips. We're gonna cross our wrists. And I want you to make sure you don't whack anybody or anything. I want you to reach out to the side. Bring your hips forward. Reach out like you're giving the world a big hug. Look up to the ceiling. Hold it for a moment. And we'll do it again. We're going to do a bunch of these. Crossing over as we fold forward. Opening up big and holding it. Squeeze those shoulder blades back. Let's do a few more. Reach out. Big reach. Like you're trying to hug the whole planet. Feel that tension, hopefully leaving. Hopefully you feel with each one of these the spine getting a little bit more limbered up and moving. Really push that chest out at the top. Let's do 2 more. Last one. All right. Hopefully you're feeling ready to go now. And as we move forward, earlier I mentioned it, this is a physical therapy clinic. People think, gosh, Dr. Mike, don't you have a bunch of fancy equipment? Well, yeah. But the beauty of exercise is you can do it anywhere without a lot of space, and even with things that are not very fancy. So I like to find practical uses for things, and growing up as a martial artist, I remember hearing phrases like, to train, all you need is enough space for a tiger to lay. And while I don't know what those dimensions are, length and width, all you really need is enough space to be able to reach out to the side, take a big step forward or a big step backward, or like I said, if you're in a chair, scoot to the front of that chair so you can really engage your core to sit up tall. We're going to use something like a cup here for a whole bunch of different things. I'm going to grab a timer too so I can keep track of things while we're going. So we've been warming up, we've been getting limbered up. Let's do some balance training now. And we can start out, hang on if you need to. I want you to lightly tap your cup or object with your foot. Lightly tapping with the toes and then letting the foot down softly. We're going to do 30 seconds here on one foot, focusing on standing up tall, light, controlled tap. We're not crunching the cup. This is also a helpful one to promote more time in single limb stance, where you're up on one leg. We know that's the majority of the time when you're walking. Oddly enough, you're on one leg at a time. It's crazy. We're going to do 30 seconds here on the other leg now. Light toe tap on your cup. Again, hang on if you need to. But if you don't, or once you feel sturdy hanging on, bring your focus or your energy and your attention to lightly tapping that cup. When you feel like you've got a good handle on that, try and do it with that head up high, that back up straight. You can still look down, But you know there's a difference between looking down this way, which makes it harder to pick that foot up, versus standing up tall and trying to pick the foot up that way. Usually we work out to oldies and soul music too, but we know this is going to go on YouTube, it's going to go on all kinds of stuff, so we want to make sure we're not violating copyright laws. We got a little crazy music in the background, but it kind of mixes it up, you know? So we've done 30 seconds now on each foot. Let's alternate feet now. We're lightly tapping each foot. We know one great thing that everybody with Parkinson's disease should do is to control that weight shift from one foot to the other. You know, there are a whole bunch of famous researchers out there. We're really lucky because we're in a time where there's an abundance of research on how to live well with Parkinson's disease. We know the Parkinson Foundation funds a whole heck of a lot of it. One great researcher I saw speak years ago just said this: if you can't weight shift, well, you can't really walk. So we know walking, that's a big deal. And the best way to work on walking is to walk. But if you're having some trouble with your balance, that's a critical component of walking. Why not do some weight shifting? We're going to do more of that too. But first, I know a lot of folks that I see in physical therapy and in our group programs say something to me like this when they think about their balance. My balance is okay as long as I'm going straight ahead and as long as nothing changes. But if I've got to step over something, or if I get in a tight space, or if I get nervous in a crowded place, it's hard for me to pick my foot up sometimes. And we know that's often a sign of freezing of gait, which can be improved in physical therapy. And whether you're freezing or not, it sure is helpful to be able to pick a foot way up high and put it down with good control without tipping forward. So what I want you to do next is hang on to something if you need it for the first few. I want you to put one foot right next to your object. We're going to step over it. So I've got the left foot on the floor. I'm going to pick that right knee up to bring that foot up and over in front. Keep the head up and back up. Then pick it up and step back. What I want you to avoid is the urge to kind of swing that leg around. That's not giving you as much benefit. So let's give it a shot here. Let's aim for 30 seconds of it. Up and over, pause, up and back, pause. I say pause like an old tape deck. So up and over, pause, up and back, pause. I like for folks to add those strategic pauses at the end of each part of a motion, if they can do it, because we know part of the brain that's affected by Parkinson's disease is the basal ganglia. What's the role of the basal ganglia? Well, a whole bunch of things. But for movement, one thing it does is it helps to start big movements and stop big movements. So the reason I like that pause to occur, even if it's a short one, is a lot of times in a group, let's switch sides. I might give somebody a drill like this to do, or the group a drill like this to do. And what I might see is a whole lot of fast and kind of furious, uncontrolled movement. So when you slow down, you add that pause, it forces, again, that focused control, which gives you increased control over how your body responds to Parkinson's disease. And that's a beautiful thing. So let's get the other side. Up and over, pause. Up and back, pause. We're just shifting the weight and stepping up and over something. I don't know if you want to use the power of imagination here to try and picture something crazy that you'd be stepping over. I'm having a lot of things come to mind, but nothing great. Broken glass, that's not fun. Spilled beverage, maybe. I don't know, but you wouldn't want to slip in that. I just spent the holidays in my hometown of Cincinnati, where I used to live before Texas. and there was a lot of ice, you might imagine you're stepping over a slippery patch of ice. Or you might just say, Mike, are you talking a lot so we can pass the time and make these drills not quite as hard? Probably. Okay, so let's think about this. We've been going forward and backward. That's wonderful. Now, we've got to try to figure out a way to go side to side, which for a lot of people is a harder task. So again, hang on to something if you need to, but what I'm hopeful you can do, watch me first here, is I want you to pick that first foot up, nice and high, reach it over your cup or your object, but leave some space for that other leg, because we've got to get it up and over too. And usually what I see with folks who haven't done this kind of thing in a while is a lot of times it's not so hard to get the first foot over, but maybe they don't leave a lot of space, or they get it up and over, but they kind of swing the other leg around, and that's not as helpful for your hips. So let's give it a shot. We're going to go up and over, pause, up and back, pause. Some of you might say, well, is there something I can do with my arms? Sure. Next week we're going to do some boxing with our Southpaws Boxing Club. You might get a little preview for that by throwing some punches, but you better keep those hands up. Or maybe there's a little bit of a Broadway performer in each of you, and maybe you want to pause for dramatic flair. You know, that's a nice way to get big reach and to get those muscles between your shoulder blades active. We do some yoga here at Tribe Wellness. Maybe you want to do some sort of warrior arm pose or field goal pose because it's the NFL playoffs here soon. Whatever you want to do, just make sure you're getting those feet up and over, up and back. How about a couple more? The great thing about these workouts being recorded too is if there's something you feel was particularly challenging, you know there's a threshold of discomfort to make improvement in life. And you don't need me to explain it to you. A lot of times you might just think about it. If something's too easy, well, that's kind of pointless, right? If something's too hard, it's kind of like, that's too frustrating, I'm not going to mess with it. But if something's just a little bit beyond your comfort zone, that's usually where you make some improvement, and that is so true for balance. A lot of times balance training isn't the type of intense workout that you'd get if you were doing some wind sprints or a spin class or a boxing workout, but it's every bit as helpful, if not more, because we live life against gravity, don't we? One thing that'll help us with that is narrowing our base of support. And with these recorded classes, again, you can take a drill like this if it's a challenge for you, and you can revisit that video and do it over and over. Or gosh, if you feel like you've just fallen in love with this class, which would be nice, maybe you want to check out our website, tribewellness.org. So tribe, like a group of people, wellness, like what we care about, .org, and maybe think about joining us online for a class. But let's take some time here to narrow our base of support. You've probably done this pose in physical therapy or with your neurologist. We've got heel to toe. I'll give you a side view here. Heel to toe. And you know it's easy to feel those feet start to wobble or hips start to wobble. What I want you to do here is to hold this for just a moment and get a sense of the difference between when you're up nice and tall and when you're focused on where your feet are versus if you're leaning one way or another, you can kind of feel where the weight moves around in your feet. We're going to do some shifting here, and it's going to be pretty cool. So I'm going to keep my right foot where it is throughout the duration of this drill. Left foot, I'm going to bring out in front, heel to toe. And again, if you need to hang on, hang on. If not, don't worry about it. And then I'm going to bring the left foot behind and let it take some weight. So we're going to be slowly shifting the weight forward, narrow stance, and back, narrow stance. If you need to step out of it, do it, but then try to come right back into it. It'll get better. Balance is the kind of thing where if you can train it safely, and if you can train it in that target zone of discomfort, it can get a lot better, even despite Parkinson's disease. So there's always something you can tweak to improve your balance. Let's do just a little bit more here, shifting the weight in this tandem stance, heel toe, like we're walking on a wire, tightrope. If you like this stuff too, and you want to move even slower, you might check out the video that we did last week, which is a Tai Chi intro. Or maybe you want to join me for some Tai Chi, which is a slow Chinese martial art. We do 4 classes a week of that here at the Tribe. And we've got some people here in person, we've got some people online. Let's get the other side though. So we've got left foot now as the stance leg, and we're going to bring that right foot out in front, slowly shifting the weight into it. And then keeping that head up and back up, we're going to bring the right behind and shift the weight. Isn't that crazy? So this is such a nice one to challenge your balance and control. And if it's easy for you, congrats, that's a good thing. And that means the work you're doing right now on things like this will just help you keep that balance really good. If it's a challenge for you, don't worry, it should be a challenge, and that's how it's going to get better. So let's take a little more time here, working our way through this one. Just rocking forward and backwards, slowly controlling that weight shift. Last week we did a Tai Chi technique on one leg. A lot of times in our balance and core class, I try to do some drills where we get up on one leg. In Tai Chi, we get to do some kicks too, which is a little crazy. But I want to leave us some time to work on the core. It'll be great. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to show you quickly how you could do some of these core exercises from a chair. And then I'll show you some of them from the floor. If you can get down onto the floor, that's preferable. But again, I want to make sure if you do it, you're able to get back up nice and safely. And I want to make sure you're not taking any unnecessary risks. I know the folks that I get to spend time with here at Tribe Wellness will say things like, you know what, Dr. Mike, some days my balance is okay. Some days it's better. Some days it's got an opportunity. And if you're having a day where it feels like you've got an opportunity for your strength or your balance, don't take an unnecessary risk. What we're going to do on the floor is a drill called bird dog, and you can do something similar from a chair. I'm sitting at the edge of the chair. I'm going to reach an arm up high and kick the opposite leg out. Hold it for 3, 2, 1. Come back to feet on the floor, hands together. Then the other side. Reach up, kick out, hold it. 3, 2, 1. Switch it. So we're going to do that for a whole minute. And people will say, gosh, I never knew a minute could feel so long. Well, don't worry. We're getting good training, right? If you can get down on the floor, let's do it from the floor. What you can do is you can get your hands directly beneath your shoulders. You can get your knees about hips width directly beneath your hips. And we can either kick a leg straight back, pressing that heel forward, and reach the opposite arm out and hold it. 3, 2, 1, and then put it down. Or if that's too much, you might do just the arms for a while and then just the legs for a while. There's no wrong answer here if you're safe, but let's take some time to just reach it and put it down, reach it and put it down. You can feel so many muscles of your core firing here. And again, I want you to try to keep that leg straight as an arrow. Fight the urge to bend the knee. Push the heel back instead. See if you can reach your arm out as straight as you can. You might even try to fight some cramping and stiffness in the fingers, spreading the fingers here. Such a good drill. And if it's a challenge, it might feel like we've gained the power to slow down time. But that's okay, we're doing it, you know? We're getting after it, and that's what matters. Let's do it for a few more seconds here. Big reach, arm and leg. If it's easy for you, you can go even slower or hold it longer. If it's not easy, don't worry. Working on it will help. Okay. Next up, we can do a little bit of a drill to work on some of the stiffness people get in their upper back, their thoracic spine, which is pretty much the span of your rib cage to the base of your neck. We might even get a little bit of rotation here through the neck. From the chair, so if you're on the floor, stay there. I'll join you in a moment. From the chair, the way you can do this is you can, again, sit at the edge, feet wide. And the rule for this one, rear end stays in that chair, please. But what you can do is you can kind of fold forward here with your chest pointed to the floor. Again, I'll show you the floor version in a moment. But we can take one hand to the ear and we can try to twist the chest to the side without rising up. We're trying to twist the chest to the side, point the elbow to the ceiling, and then come back down, chest pointing to the floor, elbow pointing to the floor. So we're going to do a bunch of them going one way and a bunch of them the other way. That's how you do it from the chair. If you're on the floor, let me join you here. Again, we're in that tabletop pose. We got the knees, hips width. We got one hand below the shoulder, other hand to the ear. Let's twist to the right, point the elbow up towards the ceiling, hold it for a second, and then slowly control it back down. We're working on rotation of the thoracic spine. So your mid back and your upper back. And we're trying to take it slow. And we're trying to squeeze that shoulder blade back at the top. And you should probably feel some core muscles firing here and saying, hey friend, thanks for doing this. Get to the top and hold it for a moment, and then back down with good control. About 2 more. 1 more. And then we'll switch sides. So, left hand to the ear, left elbow towards the floor, twist the chest to the left. Try to point that left elbow up to the ceiling, let it down slowly. Big rotation, twisting the chest, Squeeze that left shoulder blade back at the top. Rotate your way back down. Take your time with it. We're getting good core stability just from this tabletop pose. We're getting even more core stability from this rotation component. And you know, if you've paid attention to some of those educational lectures that the Parkinson Foundation puts out, you already know axial rotation, twisting of the trunk, is crucial for keeping people mobile and limber with Parkinson's disease. And you can say, well, why does that matter? Well, twisting of the trunk gets limited by that stiffness with Parkinson's disease. And that also kind of puts you in a position for a whole lot of orthopedic issues. But the more you can use the old PT phrase of motion is lotion, well, then the better you can get that mid-back and upper back moving, which puts your shoulders in a better and safer position. It makes it easier to have that upright spine. It makes it easier to open up the chest. And it makes it easier to functionally do things like reach for stuff. Let's work our way into the chair now. We're winding down here, friends. We've gotten to do a big dynamic warm-up that hopefully felt great. We've gotten to do some standing balance drills. And I'll tell you this, if all that stuff felt easy, you might try some reactive balance training. We've done some core work. We've done some spinal mobility work. Let's do a little stretching, huh? I feel like a lot of folks that I see, I'll give you a side view here, just from living life with or without Parkinson's, end up with tightness in their hamstrings. And since we've done a good workout, it's easier to get a benefit from stretching. We can kick the right leg out. So we're at the edge of the chair. Why the edge of the chair? Because we want the knee nice and straight. If you're sitting way back here, you can't quite straighten that leg. So scoot to the front, heel down, toes up, knees straight, sit up tall. That might be plenty of a stretch. If it's not, you might keep that straight spine and just tip forward ever so slightly. You'll feel it. And I know also, though, that a lot of people that I get to work with probably were already doing a lot of the right stretches, some variation of this, for example. But maybe they just didn't hold it long enough. And it's interesting because there's some great research in physical therapy that points to effective stretching. And how do you make a lasting change in the tightness, the length, and the tension relationship of tight muscles? Well, a longer hold is certainly helpful. Low load, long duration stretching can make a difference. So here, you might hold a stretch like this for minutes. And I know some of you probably heard me say minutes and emphasize the plural and thought, I don't know about this. But if you needed to break it up, you could break it up a little bit and then go right back to stretching it. It's kind of like how all activity counts in your weekly total of physical activity, with the goal being 300 or so minutes each week. That's from guidelines put out by a whole bunch of different organizations, the World Health Organization, the CDC, the American Academy of Neurology, you name it. They all say 150 to 300 minutes of physical activity. Same deal with stretching. Time under tension is what matters. So if you got to break it up for a little bit and kind of wiggle things and reposition yourself, take a sip of water and then come back, that's fine. But why not take some more time to focus on letting some of that tension out so you can move better. We'll hold it for just another moment here. If I was smart, I would have had the timer in front of me too, but that's all right. We can switch legs. We got the left heel out in front now. Heel down, toes up. We get the knee nice and straight. We're sitting up tall again. That might be enough of a stretch, and if it's not, from the hips, hinging from the hips, we'll tip forward ever so slightly until you feel that stretch. Yeah, there it is. Hey there, old friend. Tight hamstring. That'd be kind of crazy. We're talking to hamstrings. Not that I was just, anyway. So we're just stretching away some tightness. Sometimes it's helpful too, just to keep your mind occupied while you stretch. It can be helpful to focus on your breath and take slow breaths. You might breathe in for a 3 or a 4 count, and you might breathe out for a 4 or a 5 count. And you might try to imagine as you inhale, you're bringing fresh air and fresh energy to those tight muscles. And as you breathe out, they're even more relaxed. And if that's a little too crazy and out there for you, don't worry about it. The big deal is stretching. Don't worry about anything else. Good. So we got to stretch some hamstring tightness. My hope is that you've been able to try some things that maybe you haven't done before, or maybe you haven't done in a long time. And we know exercise has a great benefit for people for cognitive function. We know some of that's getting the heart rate up and working, but we also know some of that is skill acquisition, just trying to do stuff that's different than what you normally do. Or maybe a new aspect of something old, something that you've already been doing. So my hope is that I'm just mixing up your routine a little bit, giving you some things to do that might be a little different than what you normally do. I certainly hope that you have enjoyed our workout today. And if you have, let me know. You can email me, Mike, my name, Mike, at tribewellness.org. You can visit our website, tribewellness.org. And if you didn't have fun, don't worry. Next week we'll do something totally different. And after that, the Parkinson Foundation will give you some other, hopefully skilled and expert exercise person to get to hang out with. But it sure has been a pleasure for me to get to spend some time with you and to share a little bit about what we do at the Tribe. So why not give yourselves a big round of applause for good work. I want to thank you for showing up today for your workout, and even more importantly, showing up for your own health. So good job, and I will look forward to spending some more time with you. Hopefully you'll tune in next week for boxing. We're going to have Southpaws Boxing Club, which is what we do here at Tribe Wellness. I'll do a live boxing class with you. I love it. I used to fight around the country as an amateur fighter long before becoming a physical therapist. So I love the realism of some techniques we use in training. Even more though, I love what it can do for people when you consistently train. Thanks for tolerating me chatting you up for 40 or so minutes, and take good care of yourselves. Thanks.